Good morning, everyone, and thank you for waiting. Welcome to Banco do Brasil fourth quarter 2019 earnings conference call. This event is being recorded, and all participants will be in a listen-only mode during the company's presentation. After this, there will be a question and answer session. At that time, further instructions will be given. Should any participant need assistance during this call, please dial *0 to reach the operator. This conference call is also being broadcasted live via webcast through Banco do Brasil website at www.br.bb.com.br/ir, where the presentation is also available. The replay of the conference call will be available through the phone number 551121880400 until February 21st, 2020. In English and Portuguese. To access the replay, please ask the operator to listen to BB's conference call. Identification will be required. Participants may view the slides in any order they wish. Before proceeding, let me mention that this presentation may include reference and statements, planning synergies, estimates, projections, and forward-looking strategies concerning Banco do Brasil, its associated and affiliated companies and subsidiaries. These expectations are highly dependent on market conditions and on the performance of domestic and international markets, the Brazilian economy, and banking system. Banco do Brasil is not responsible for updating any estimate in this presentation. With us today, we have Mr. Carlos Hamilton, CFO, and Mr. Daniel Maria, Head of Investor Relations. Mr. Daniel Maria, you may now begin.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to our presentation. Let's start on page 4 and with some highlights of our earnings. We presented 63.1 billion reais in NII in 2019. This is an increase of 6.4% in relation to 2018. In terms of fee income, we grew 6.4%. That represented 29.2 billion reais at the end of 2019. In terms of administrative expenses, we grew 2.8% below inflation, and we reached 31.5 billion reais. And in terms of credit provisions, ALL expenses, we reached 13 billion reais. That is a decrease of 8.6% in relation to 2018. All those aspects combined brought us an adjusted net income of 17.8 billion. That is a 32% growth in relation to 2018. Now moving to the next page, page 5, I bring more details about the results of the bank. First of all, we are delivering consistent growth in our adjusted net income quarter on quarter, as we show here on the left-hand side in the yellow parts. And we grew 1.8% in relation to the last quarter. Yeah? And when we compare to the same quarter 2018, it is a growth of 20.3%. When we compare year on year, we have 32.1%, as I said, reaching 17.8 billion in adjusted net income. In terms, some of the profitability index that shows the same movement is the return on assets that we moved from 1 to 1.2, and the return on equity that we reached 17.3% in 2019 from 13.9% that we delivered in 2018. Now moving to the next page, page 6. We bring more granular information about the NII. We are delivering growth in NII consistently quarter on quarter. On an annual basis, we grew 6.4%, reaching 53.1 billion. When we look at the composition, the yellow part in the bar is mainly treasury contribution. We see growth in the contribution coming from treasury in 2019, and we do not expect the same contribution for 2020 as I'm going to describe later. In terms of the loan operations revenues, we see the change in mix being reflected here. For instance, individuals' portion of the revenues grew from 49% to 52.5%. Although we have also movements in terms of mix shifts coming from companies, this is not completely clear here because the portfolio is reduced. But when we look at inside, the participation of the smaller companies has been increasing in terms of the profitability of the total of the revenues, not the profitability, but for the contribution in revenues. Another important aspect for the contribution in NII is the reduction in the funding costs. This is one of the functions of the reduction in the base rates, since most of our funding is variable, it's floating, and also some cases like the judicial deposits. Now moving to the page 7, we show the NIM and the spread by portfolio. Actually, all that movement related to the change in mix that I mentioned previously is being shown here. Starting in the middle, that we show in the middle of the slide, that we show the managerial spread, we reached 8.19%, an increase comparing to 7.6 for the total portfolio, and this is being driven by all the lines of credit. For instance, individuals reaching 16.44, companies 5.30, and agribusiness as well. This is one of the leverages for the NIM. The NIM, there is a function of the liquid assets for the NIM. Exactly for that reason, we have some volatility quarter on quarter. However, we see the managerial spread increasing, and we see the liquid assets being reduced. For that reason, this explains also higher growth in NIM. As I said, we expect some volatility quarter on quarter, but in a medium term, we see growth, gradual growth. Moving to page 8, we bring some information about the fee income. The fee income grew 6.4% year on year, and when we compare to the last, not the last, but to the fourth quarter of 2018, we grew 3.8%. This growth is being driven by growth in, for instance, consortiums that we grew 29.3%, capital markets 23.7%, insurance or the insurance business that grew 18%, and checking account and asset management grew 6%. Moving to page 9, we bring the administrative expenses and some ratios, for instance, the cost-income ratio. We grew 2.8% our admin expenses, below inflation, as I said. Representing this in the cost-income ratio, in the coverage ratio, we see increasing the efficiency of the organization. By the way, just an observation here, we had one event in the fourth quarter, that is basically the health plan, CAFI, that impacted fully the fourth quarter. This is related to the full year, and what we did here for the cost-income ratio, just to avoid some dislocation, is to spread this amount along the quarters. Then, exactly to show the downward trend and how we are managing the efficiency of the organization. Another metric is the number of employees. We ended the year with 93,000 employees, and this is one of the effects of the seventh package that we launched in the third quarter. And in terms of the branch footprint, we continue the process of optimizing our network, and basically reducing the full branches, and we are opening specialized branches and points of services. And in doing this, we adjust the cost structure for the network. Now moving to page 10, we bring more light about the loan portfolio. The loan portfolio we show the development of all lines here. But most importantly is that we are growing exactly the lines of credit, for instance, as you can see here on the right-hand side, in the most profitable lines, individuals, SMEs, the retail, and the reduction in the portfolio, the detractors, coming from wholesale and agri-industrial. That, by the way, this is a movement that is linked to a different dynamic in capital markets, and the bank is servicing those customers through capital markets. There is also a change in the duration of the portfolio that explains a little bit of this. And happening all this process, the percentage of the loan portfolio for the retail operations grew from 36.7 to 41.1% of the total portfolio. Moving to page 11, we bring individuals' loan portfolio and shows the dynamics of changing mix in this process. Payroll loan continues to be a relevant line for all of our individuals' portfolio, grew 14.5% year on year. However, some lines as consumer finance that has higher profitability is growing at 45.2%. Certainly, in terms of the base is different, but this is very important to rebalance the risk rewards of the portfolio, and this is one of the reasons why that is contributing to increasing our return on assets. The company's portfolio on page 12, it's a similar dynamics. We see the corporates, the large corporate parts of the portfolio reducing. Yeah, this is the main detractor for the growth in this portfolio. On the other hand, we see the stability is much closer. Yeah, and the SME portfolio is growing faster. Yeah, and the growth in the SME portfolio helps the spread for this portfolio, since we go to some lines that are more profitable. And when we open the SME portfolio, we see, for instance, that working capital and revolving credits is growing much faster, yeah, at 28 and 12.5% year on year. Moving to page 13, we bring the agribusiness portfolio. The agribusiness portfolio has similar movements. The yellow part of the bar here are the agri-industrial loans. Those loans are reducing the participation in the total portfolio. This is mainly explained by the dynamics of capital markets. It's very similar to the large corporates. When you look at inside the rural loans, there is also a change in this movement, in this process. For instance, we see individuals gaining more relevance in the total portfolio and reached 159 billion in a total portfolio of 170 billion. Page 14, we bring ALL expenses. The credit provisions, we saw a reduction of 8.6% year on year. This movement can be explained by two dynamics. First of all, recovery of write-offs grew from 6.7, and also the gross provisions reduced from 20.2 to 19.7. Then all these two combined movements explains the reduction in the ALL expenses. And in terms of cost of risk, we reached 3.50, yeah, and excluding the large case, we are in the region of 2.7%. On page 15, we bring the NPLs. The NPL of the total portfolio reached 2.54%, a reduction of 20 basis points in comparison to the last quarter, excluding the larger case. We exclude the larger restructuring case, the Chapter 11 case here, exactly to show the dynamics of the portfolio. Yeah? And we show exactly the same movement with the coverage ratio, including the case and excluding the case. On the next page, page 16, we bring granular view about the NPL for individuals, companies, and the business. Individuals, as we mentioned in the last conference call, reduced The peak that we observed in the third quarter was seasonal, and we saw a reduction to 3.41%. In the company's portfolio, the behavior, excluding the larger case, it's large. We moved it from 3.09 to 2.49. This is one of the reasons why we see a contribution to reduction to the credit provisions. And in the case of the agribusiness, excluding the larger case, we reached 1.85%. There is one dynamic here that is important to highlight, that is basically the change in mix. As I said in the previous slide, it's reducing the agri-industrial part of the portfolio. This portion has a lower NPL, however, lower profitability as well. And when we take this, we reduce this, increases the total NPL for the portfolio. The new NPL that is shown on page 17, and for the total portfolio and by segment, presents also a reduction, from 0.84 or 0.76, depending on the view, to 0.5. And the same dynamics is presented in the individuals, companies, except in the agribusiness. But again, this is something that can be explained by this movement that I explained earlier. Moving to page 18, we bring the capitalization of the bank. The CET1, we ended the year with 10.02. We reinforced our commitment to reach by January 22 at least 11% in CET1. What happened in this quarter? We had several moving parts. In the bottom part here on this slide, we present some of those movements. For instance, we had some extraordinary events like the treasury shares that we sold in the follow-on that added some more capital. The equity interest is mainly related to the Seguridade dividends and so on. Summing up those aspects, we have around 100 basis points that was consumed by the repricing of the actual positions that was roughly 100 basis points. We have also the repricing of the tax credits, and part of this repricing is representing in this consumption of capital due to higher tax credits. Then this explains basically the movement that we have chosen. Now moving to page 19, we bring some points about ESG policy of Brazil. This is a subject that Banco Brazil has been working in the last years. It is in the strategy of the bank and in the matrix of the strategic goals. This is embedded in all the actions. This is not new. At least we participate, for instance, in some of those indexes in the last 10, 15 years. For instance, we are part of the ISE, an index, sustainability index by B3, since the launching of this index 15 years ago. We are part of the ICO2, that's another index issued by related to B3. We are also part of the Dow Jones Sustainability Index in emerging markets since 2012, and last year we were included in the global index, and we are part of the FTSE index in the last 4 versions. We are part also in the corporate governance index for the public companies. And we are part of the new market that has the highest standards of corporate governance. Then all those movements and some other initiatives that I mentioned here gave us some important rewards and recognitions. For instance, the Global 100 that is issued by Corporate Knights, and we were among the 10 most sustainable companies in the world for the second year in a row. And this index is issued by Corporate Knights and usually is announced in Davos. We are the only Brazilian and Latin American bank in this ranking. These 100 rank, they check more than 7,500 companies, and this is rewards to all initiatives that we're doing. And we received also the Sustainability Award Gold Class in 2020. One of the reasons that explains this, from our portfolio, 30% of our portfolio can be considered as a green portfolio, something that has some positive externality, for instance, eco-efficiency, low carbon emissions, or something related to renewable energies, sustainability, and agribusiness related to best practices, and so on. On page 20, we bring the guidance for 2019. We met all our goals in terms of guidances for 2019. Now moving to page 21, I bring more information about the guidance for 2020. Just some observations that we had some changes in the way to report. We need to harmonize to what you see in the market, and also to bring something that just shows exactly what we are presenting to the market. Let me start with the loan portfolio. For instance, the retail portion of the portfolio is one of the aspects that we are giving more attention. And then we started a new way to disclose this, including the SMEs plus the individuals that we are calling retail. Yeah? And we expect to grow between 10 to 13%. The wholesale, that is basically the companies above 200 million in revenues, and excluding government, we expect to grow between 2 to 5%. This is one important aspect because after several years of decreasing the wholesale part of the portfolio, this year we see possibility of stabilizing and continuing growing. Yeah? Certainly the targeting in this process, we see a participation of the large middle companies in this process. And the real loans growing 1 to 4%. Then all those aspects combined give us a loan portfolio growth between 5.5 and 8.5. Something that it's important also to highlight is NII. We see NII growth in line with the average balance of this portfolio. Yeah? And we made a change in the index because in the past we used to include the impairments. This year we exclude impairments from NII. By the way, we have a pro forma in our MD&A just to help you to understand those movements from modeling. Yeah? And we moved the impairments to ALL expenses. Basically what we did in the credit provisions, we include the gross credit provisions, less the recovery, plus the impairments, and plus the discounts. And this is basically this new index that we show here, and we expect to stay between 10 to 13%. By the way, we brought also in our MD&A the pro forma for 2019 considering these metrics. In terms of income, we expect a growth between 1 to 4%, and admin expenses between 2.5 and 4.5%. All those aspects combined, we see an adjusted net income in between 18.5 to 20.5%, or 18.5 to 20 billion reais in 2020. Just to make some comments about the dynamics of the results in 2020. In 2019, the operations of the bank improved a lot. Yeah? Not completely this process was clear because we had higher legal costs. For 2020, we see this process of having strong operation will continue. We expect to have lower legal costs, and exactly for that reason, we can have in the mid range of this guidance growth in between 10%. even though we have a growth in the tax rate. Yeah. That said, we can move to the Q&A. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. If you have a question, please dial *1 now. Our first question comes from Neha Agarwala from HSBC.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I wanted to ask about the recent news that we've heard about your card business. Are you contemplating the sale or reorganization of the business, and any plans on CLO that has been determined? Thank you. I'll ask the next question after.
Okay, Neha, Daniel Maria speaking. Thank you for the question. Actually, you probably heard several rumors in the press about this issue. As any organization, we always review the participations in the business that we have. But something that I can tell you, there is nothing defined. There is nothing in this direction. It's only speculation that we see in the market and those rumors. But there is nothing decided, nothing defined in this direction.
Okay, very clear. But would there be any roadblocks if you would like to divest your stake in CLO, or what would be the challenges for undertaking such a transaction in your view? If you can give any color on that.
I think that it's one thing that we need to have in mind is the structure of the Brazilian ecosystem. So when you look at all participants, they have acquirers in their business. The relationship of the acquirers with the banking, that certainly there will be a huge transformations in the future, and it has been showing transformations. Yeah. Actually, the aspect and the most complex aspect is how you position yourself when the market has one structure. Yeah. And the probably 1 million questions, how will be the structure of the market probably in 5 years and 10 years that you can create a competitive advantage in these markets. Then, but as I said, there is nothing defined. It's only speculation, and it's normal that you review all our business on a regular way. Even though it's a core and non-core, you need to take a look on those businesses.
Okay. Thank you for that. My second question is more on the guidance side. You expect 1 to 4% fee income growth. I believe that is on the lower side when you look at the loan growth, probably impacted due to competition. Anything else that is leading to the lower growth in fee income that you can elaborate on? And the other aspect is the OPEX growth. We've seen that some of your peers have been much more aggressive in controlling expenses, and they would like to close more branches to reduce their cost base. What are your plans in terms of cost control, and do you think you could be towards the low end of the guidance or mid to high range? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nika. Let me start with the fee income. Yeah, I would say that this fee income that we are presenting here, we have challenges for this, and just making some exercise. Yeah, in the fourth quarter, we had the full effect of the repricing of the asset management. Just an exercise. If you get the 3 first quarters and you analyze this and you project the full effect in the next year, you would have a reduction. Just looking at this inertially, you would have a reduction of 3.5%. What we are saying here that we are going to grow to compensate this reduction, yeah, and to grow in the other lines of business. Yeah, then this is quite challenging. Yeah, probably when you compare the composition of those the income is different from bank to bank. In our case, this is the reality. We have a hit that comes from the asset management business, but we see space for compensate in other lines. For instance, capital markets is one example. Insurance can compensate this. The consortium, the consortium is something that is growing quite fast in Brazil. then this is embedded in the assumptions for the income. Yeah? Going to the admin expenses, I would say that we started first this process of reducing the cost structure of the bank. In the last 3 years, or even 4 years, we have been showing growth below inflation, very low comparatively to inflation. Then certainly the next step that you need to do is always more complex. Yeah? And in terms of branch network, we address most of the redundancies that we have. Certainly we could have some movements, but this will be more case to case. I don't see a bunch of branches being closed. Yeah, in terms of personnel, we did a lot. We reduced a lot in the last years. More recently, we announced a new approach for the compensation of the employees. This is something that could bring some savings in the medium run. Yeah? Then the bank is addressing all those aspects. On the other hand, for this year, we have more expenses, for instance, in marketing. When you have a very competitive market, you need to position yourselves, and this expense some of the expenses that we have. It's more related to the business. Then this is basically the dynamics that I see for the administrative expenses and why we have those numbers. Is it clear?
Very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Nicolas Riva from Bank of America.
Yeah, thanks very much for taking my question. I have a question on the overdraft and what's been announced in terms of regulation. So the central bank put this cap of 8% a month on how much you can charge in the overdraft lines. If I look at the contribution to the loan book, it's less than 1% of the total loans, but you charge very high interest rates. I mean, banks in general charge very high interest rates in that segment. Have you assessed the impact from this regulation in terms of your net earnings? And then also, if you expect more regulation from the central bank in terms of caps on interest rates on other credit lines. Thanks.
Okay, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you for the question. First of all, in terms of overdrafts, as you said, when you compare the overdrafts portion of our total individuals portfolio is lower compared to the system. We have lower than 1%. The system is on average 2 or 3%. Yeah, and then the impact, certainly there is an impact in our balance sheet, but tends to be lower compared to the peers. Yeah, we estimate the impact something around 300 to 350 million after tax in our NII. Yeah, but we see space for compensate this in other lines of credit and growing in other lines of credit. Yeah. For instance, the non-payroll loan is a good example. Yeah. Another aspect is the new regulation gave the possibility of charging for the availability of the limit of credit. We opted not to do it. We understand that the overdraft facility is one important product to bring the customer to the bank. Yeah, and we can manage this to consume other products. And it is exactly the way we are tackling this. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. And then do you see the possibility of the central bank putting caps on interest rates on other credit lines besides overdrafts?
Nicholas, to be very frank, it's hard to predict. I would say that it's less likely. Yeah, this is a specific case. And the way the central bank is behaving, actually they put some sort of cap, but they create some situation that the banks compete and find the equilibrium rate. Yeah? It's hard to say, but the stance of central bank is increasing competition. Yeah, certainly the stance of central bank is bringing more participants to that market. And also, opening the market to mainly to fintech and so on. And the bank is prepared to compete in these environments. Yeah, this is what I call a new normal.
Okay, thanks very much.
Our next question comes from Jeffrey Elliott from Autonomous.
Oh, hello. Good morning. Thank you for taking the question. There's been quite a lot of discussion from your CEO and in the press about a number of the stakes that you hold. So you've talked about being in close to looking for binding bids on the asset management joint venture. You've put out the announcement about a Votorantim IPO, and you've announced that you're reviewing the card business. Can you discuss what you're trying to achieve strategically here? Is it simply about generating some capital, or is there something more strategic you're looking to do?
Jeffrey, thank you for the question. It's strategic. What is the goal of this management is to prepare the institution for a new competitive landscape. Yeah? And certainly, as I said, reviewing the business is something that is normal. In the case of, let me give you the example of the asset management. Yeah? The bank has a huge capacity to originate deals. On the other hand, we have the gaps. Then the gaps are in some business, for instance, that is necessary global scale. For instance, M&A or advisory. When we made the agreement with UBS, we closed that gap. Yeah, bringing someone with lower scale and matching with our origination capability. For the asset management business, although there is nothing announced, what is the concept of this? We see a huge transformation in the asset management business. Yeah, and looking at the structure of the market, certainly you need to have some competitive advantages. Having global scale is one important aspect to this, even though to distribute funds abroad or to assuming that the interest rate will continue at low levels, certainly a global location will be part of the daily business of the investors here. Then having a global partner is something that you prepare the institution for this new normal. Yeah. But I give you two examples just to show how the management thinks about this, how we see the future of that business, what's going to be the competitive advantages in the new environment, what we need to fill the gaps to reach this. It's not necessary to build up capital. We're building up capital organically, yeah, and we are quite comfortable with our targets.
Thank you. So when you're thinking about a partner in asset management, what are you looking for them to bring to the table?
Okay. When you look at the asset management business here in Brazil, and probably this is, part of the history of the high interest rate environment, most of the allocation is to fixed income. And fixed income is exactly the funds that are having more compressed fees. Certainly there is a migration to more sophisticated strategies. Yeah, and some of them probably bringing a different dynamic. You can start to deliver. Also, in terms of having a global allocation or having capacity to build global access, this is another aspect that you can bring into this. Yeah, and again, scale is another important aspect to this. Yeah, and then we see a huge transformation in the markets and having a lot of innovation in how we can speed up the process of innovation inside the bank. And we understand that a global partner in this process brings a differential to the market. That's probably it is a competitive advantage comparatively to the peers.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
This concludes today's question and answer session. Mr. Daniel Maria, you may proceed with your closing statements. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you all for the attendance. We keep available here for further questions. And thank you. Thank you again. Have a nice day.
That does conclude the Banco do Brasil conference call for today. As a reminder, the material used in this conference call is available on Banco do Brasil Investor Relations website. Thank you very much for your participation and have a nice day. You may now disconnect.